Hello, welcome to tonight's Travel Talk on Costa Rica. The OSU Alumni Association's online Travel Talk series is our way of connecting the people of OSU and the places we go with our travel program. Welcome, I'm Kate Sanders, Director of the Alumni Group Travel Program. Tonight's talk is going to focus on one trip, and that one is to Costa Rica. I had the opportunity to travel on a similar tour in 2017, and I wanted to share some of the highlights from that trip because this next year's tour is very similar to the one that I went on, and it's a great overview of Costa Rica. So the trip is from February 29th to March 10th, 2024, and there is a pre-tour to Tortuguero National Park from February 26th to the 29th, and we'll mention a little bit about that as well. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, check out our recordings online of some of our other travel talks for oregonstate.org/travel talks and stay up to date on other upcoming talks that we have. Speaking of that, I will be back here next Wednesday, September 20th. Same place, online, same time, 5:30, to talk about a recent tour to Uganda and our gorilla trek. The trip was amazing. It was just amazing. So I'll have all sorts of photos from that trip as well and talk about going through the country of Uganda, doing the chimpanzee trek, the gorilla trek, also the safari, seeing lions and elephants and rhinos and not rhinos, sorry, hippos. It was a really great experience, and the people of Uganda were so nice. So that will be September 20th. And a lot of the photos too that I'll share are from our travelers. We had some amazing photographers on this trip, and they captured some really great pictures. So then going forward, if you're new also to our travel program, the best place to find our trips is you go to the website and then you click on tour calendar, and then they're all in date order. There's a whole variety of land tours, cruises, trains, riverboats, trips as well. There are exclusive departures with only an OSU alumni, family and friends. And then there's also trips with partnering institutions. So we might be traveling with, Iowa State or UCLA. It just depends on the tour. When the tour sells well, a professor or university or alumni association representative joins the trip, providing that additional educational content about the destination and the university. And not only are you learning more by a sending ambassador, they assist with those tour logistics and ensure that you're having a really great time. And Costa Rica is one of those places that if you go once, most likely you're going to want to go again and explore maybe a different region or go back to some place that you saw. I will say I've been amazed by lately of how many folks that I have met in Oregon and elsewhere that vacation in Costa Rica, that have a second home in Costa Rica, that have temporarily moved to Costa Rica, especially during the pandemic. I know a few that just got up and moved to Costa Rica, and they're not alone. Costa Rica has just over 5 million people, and roughly 10% of those are expats. So speaking of one, tonight we have joined us tonight is Kelsey Hind. Hello, Kelsey.
Hi.
Kelsey is new with us at the OSU Alumni Association. She's our digital engagement director, and she lives on and off in Costa Rica, and she is going to be with us tonight telling us a little bit about the places that I haven't been to, as well as just helping me with some Spanish pronunciations, I'm sure, and adding wonderful tidbits along the way. So thank you, Kelsey, for joining us.
Thank you.
And you'll notice that her and I will probably sometimes talk over each other and interrupt each other, and that's okay. We're fine with it. So also because of that, and there's two of us, we should have your chat boxes open at the bottom of the screen, as well as the Q&A. So either one, if you have questions during the trip, just type them in either the chat or the Q&A. Both her and I will be monitoring and looking at those questions, and we might just answer them right then on the spot, or we might save it for later, but definitely use those Q&A boxes in the chat at any time to be able to answer questions. So to tell you a little bit about where we're going, Costa Rica. Just remember, it's in Central America, between Nicaragua and Panama, and it has roughly 800 miles of coastland between both the Caribbean and the Pacific Ocean. So it's an amazing, biodiverse, just awesome area.
We have volcanoes, mountains, and coastline. So it's a lot like Oregon in that way, but much more tropical.
Yes, definitely. And speaking of that, like Oregon, there's the wet areas and the dry areas too, just like Oregon. So, but their wet areas are a little bit wetter than ours. And then when you go down there, you'll hear a phrase, pura vida, all the time. And that means pure life. And honestly, I felt like it was more of a feeling down in Costa Rica than it was a saying. I mean, they say it, it's written on everything, but when you're down in Costa Rica, you just want to disconnect. You want to disconnect your phone. You want to be in the moment. You just kind of forget about everything and really just enjoy the area.
A lot of the technology is behind also, so you do feel like you're going back 10 years, which is kind of fun. Like it's almost like a time travel back 10 years in the metropolitan areas, and then when you go to the rural areas, it's an even further, maybe back to the 90s, 80s feeling. So it's really nice.
That is very true. I forgot about that. Definitely true. So on this trip, I mentioned the pre-tour is to Tortuguero, like the turtle, National Park, and Kelsey has been there, so she's going to tell us a little bit about that.
So Tortuguero is a national park, so it's all wildlife reserve. There are millions of species in the Tortuguero National Park, so it makes for amazing wildlife viewing. And then to get there, you actually have to cross over the river. So as you go along the river, it's like an old ferry, and the ferrymen take you, and then you can just see. They silence the motors for a while, and you can just see all of the pristine nature all around you. It's really special. Definitely worth it.
Yeah, we had a few travelers add the extension, and I mean, I guess this is somewhat of a sales trip, but they said it was definitely worth their time to go there. So if you have time, check into it and see if it's an option for you, since you're down there already. So that's the pre-part from February 26th through the 29th. And then you would meet up in San Jose for the rest of the trip. When you arrive in San Jose, and it's actually a pretty easy flight from the States to get down to Costa Rica, and I think that's also another reason why so many Americans and Canadians too come down and to Costa Rica to vacation. When you get there, your first hotel is one of the Intercontinental hotels in San Jose. And if you've ever been to an Intercontinental hotel, you know that it's an awesome hotel. I mentioned that, well, first I have to talk about our guide. This is Herman. You're going to see some pictures of him throughout the tour. He was phenomenal. I wish I had a tape recorder with me during the tour, or I was a really fast note taker and just kept a notepad with me the whole time, because he would just tell us every medicinal property of every plant. He knew the name of every species. It was an encyclopedia of knowledge. It was amazing. So he was really great. And we've offered this tour often, and every time a group comes back, they say the same thing about their guide. So the guides are all really great. And this is our driver, and I forget his name, but he was so much fun. He didn't know very much English. I didn't know very much Spanish, but we laughed so much during the entire trip. He was with us the whole time, and he was just great, and he knew everybody along the whole tour. He was best friends with everyone wherever we went. And then, so I come back to the Intercontinental in San Jose. Why I mention this is because I didn't know this until the end, just because of timing of arriving and departure. But right around sunset, right before sunset, all of these green parrots come and they roost in these palm trees, and it happens every night. And I was in my room, and I kept hearing this noise. I'm like, what is this? And I look outside, and it was just so many parrots. They're just flying everywhere. They're hard to see, but there's some up here. They're all sitting in the windowsills up on all the different rooms. So if you had a room on that side, your windowsill would have been lined with parrots. And then here's an up close of two of them. They're small and they're beautiful. And that was honestly my favorite part of the hotel was seeing the parrots. And
you probably won't leave your trip without seeing them because they fly around everywhere, even in the urban areas. All of a sudden, you'll hear this great chatter, and you'll look up in the sky and you'll see these flocks of these green birds. It's really special.
That's great. We stopped at a farmer's market, and so her mom took us around and about each the different fruits and vegetables and things that are available at farmers markets, which is really great. And then bought some fruit, and and then definitely in Costa Rica, us in America, we definitely have to peel our vegetables before you eat them, and drink treated water. But it was really fun to walk through the farmers market. And this is a papaya. So good. Wouldn't you say, Kelsey?
Yes, you've never tried a papaya.
Yeah.
Tried Central American papaya. It's sweet and it's nothing like the papaya you can get in the States. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I thought I didn't like
it is
papaya.
amazing. But that's
I tried it here and I
that's same with bananas, right? There's so many different species or types of banana, and people say the exact same thing, that bananas here are nothing. I'm not a banana eater, so I can't speak to them, but yes, tons of great fruits, and this is one of the vendors that were there. Is really sweet gentleman that let me take his picture. And then you'll see a lot of these little pop-up stores along the roads too. So this is an example of one of the locals selling onions along the street. You'll see this kind of thing often driving through Costa Rica. And this is just a fun picture of hammocks. Of course, there's, you can buy anything and everything around Costa Rica, but there's great little artist galleries and shops and different things to pop into. So if you're a shopper, you may want to pack an extra bag to buy things. Chickens, I saw everywhere. There are chickens everywhere. But they're really cool looking chickens. So they were fun to see. And then the other thing you saw everywhere, cows. There were a lot of cows in different places, but they too were they're kind of fun to look at all the different cows around. And then epiphytes. There in Costa Rica, there's a lot of air plants or epiphytes. So you'll see a bunch of those too in the different regions. These different plants just hanging on to other plants. And epiphytes, if you're familiar with them, they get their nutrients from the air. They don't have any roots in the ground. And then the scenery is just gorgeous. This is, I don't know, somewhere along my drive on a cloudy but beautiful day in Costa Rica. This is probably in the cloud forest. It's a very lush day. So one of our first stops outside of San Jose was the Paus Volcano National Park. This group doesn't go here anymore because there was a volcanic eruption, and then the area closed down in 2018, and then the group is now going to a different spot that Kelsey is going to talk about. But I wanted to share these pictures because it was fun. You go to a site, anything can happen where you travel, right? So you go to a site to see this beautiful crater, one of the largest craters in this volcano, and it has this gorgeous green sulfuric lagoon in the middle of the crater, and that's what you want to go see, is this beautiful lake in the middle of the crater. Well, we don't have control over the weather. So, and this is, another warning is when you're there, you only are allowed to stay 20 minutes maximum at the crater. There's a lot of sulfur in the air, and it is an active volcano. So they definitely say 20 minutes max, and then you leave. For us, it was not so much of a gorgeous day. So this is what we saw, because you're in Costa Rica, anything can happen. It was very rainy. And when we went to go see Peter, this is what we saw. Nothing. So we joked about it and we had fun that we couldn't see this gorgeous, beautiful blue lagoon in the volcano and took pictures underneath huge leaves instead. There's me. And then we went to the visitor center, got a cup of coffee. Oh, here's another cool plant, couple cool plants that were on the walkway along the way. We just got coffee and decided to take pictures in front of the photo of the crater. So that's our memory of the volcano. And there's two of our other travelers. And so we joked and had fun. That's what we were supposed to see. And then, but instead, your group is going to go here. Kelsey, why don't you talk about it?
Sure. So this is, I would say it's almost even more popular than Poas. It's the Irasu National Park. So they have 5 craters, and it's a breathtaking view from the top. There's actually, it's kind of, people describe it often as a moonscape, like you feel kind of like you're walking on the moon up there. Also, all of the parking lots are very accessible right to the walking trail. There's not any like uphill hiking. You can drive all of the uphill part. And then when you get there, you're just at the craters, at the viewpoints, and it's flat. We'll see some more pictures in a minute. But often it's misty and foggy up there at the top, but if you wait a little while and you're patient, there's so much wind or the sun starts to break through and then the fog will dissipate. So even if as you're going up you see it's foggy and misty and rainy, don't lose heart, because we have a joke in Costa Rica that if you don't like the weather, drive 5 minutes, because there are 12 microclimates and there's lots of different situations. So don't worry if it's like rainy and misty and foggy as you go up. Usually it clears up, especially during the time you're going, which is the dry season. So it's very easily accessible. And then the next slide, Kate will show there's some pictures of what it looks like. So each of these pictures were taken within 15 minutes of each other. So we got there and it was really foggy. It was even foggier than this when we first got there. You couldn't see anything. And then the next picture to the right, it was taken 15 minutes later. It's starting to clear up. And then by the time we got comfortable and everything, it was completely clear and we could see all the way to the bottom to the valleys. Yeah, on the with these volcanoes, there's lots of different vegetation. So there's some really cool, if you look one way, it looks kind of like the moonscape and the crater, and then you look towards the hill and there's like lush green behind you. So it's really interesting, a really cool walk. You can stay up there as long as your tour has allotted for, but there's no time limit. And yeah, it's really safe with the guardrails and everything. It's quite a ways back from the crater, but you can still see it. So the crater used to have liquid in it. The last time I went in December 2022, it had dried up because there had been another mudslide, and so the crater opened and some of the liquid had absorbed down. But it just really depends on the month. It changes week by week, and sometimes you can go and you can see like a orangish color. Sometimes you can see that bright blue lake in there. So it'll be a surprise. You get to, it's like surprise to see what type of crater is there that day.
We were hoping for the clouds to dissipate at ours, but they weren't going anywhere.
It didn't happen. Yeah, 2017 was an especially rainy year, I remember. This year hasn't been super rainy, so I think you have a really good chance of great weather this time. The views on the way up and the way down are also equally breathtaking and stunning. The scenery. And if you're lucky, you might get to see one of these guys still roaming around. It's the ox cart, the traditional ox cart. They're really popular around that area, so yeah, it's really cool, a cool part of the trip.
The views all through as we were driving through Costa Rica, I mean, the views were stunning everywhere we went. It was quite beautiful. One of the stops that are on the itinerary, and it was on ours as well, is the Doca Coffee Estate. And this is a family owned, the Vargas family. It owns the state since the 1940s, and it's a full production facility. And it's been considered one of the best plantations in Latin America since 1999. So we had lunch there, and then we had a tour. And at the tour, they talked to you about the different coffee plants and the process, the growing process of the plants. And this is the close-up picture of the plants and then the flowers. The time there weren't any coffee beans to take a picture of, but then the flowers. And then you go through, when she was just talking about those ox cartons, they had one there, and this is a close-up picture. I just thought the paintings were beautiful. And that was the wheel of the cart. They're all just gorgeous around. So you go through the facility, and this is another, I just thought it looked really neat. My mom she was collecting antiques, and I could just imagine something like this in her house, just sitting on a shelf. But it recorded part of the plantation of what they were doing. And there's a little pin right here that they move around to the different numbers. And here's some coffee beans that are getting sorted. You can see that there's some shells in there and the twigs and different things. And then we went to each part of the facility, learned about the process. These were bags and bags of coffee beans. Then outside where they dry the coffee, you can't see him, but in the background is a gentleman who's raking the coffee. They rake it flat, and then they rake it up in hills, and they rake it flat again. And that's how they dry the coffee, by the natural sunlight. And the people that are out there raking, they are covered from head to toe, literally, like their arms, their hands, their heads, they completely get covered from the sun, so they don't get burned, because they're out in the sun all day taking care of the coffee beans. And this is one of the rakes that's used to help move the coffee beans around as they're drying.
The sun-dried flavor
And
really adds something special to the flavor profile.
yeah, it does. And then you'll see a lot of butterfly pictures in this presentation, because I was just I guess I just was into taking pictures of butterflies. But they have a small butterfly garden, and I was excited to be able to catch these glimpses of all these beautiful butterflies in Costa Rica. I don't know the different species of the butterfly. I just thought they were all really pretty. And there's a little butterfly hiding on a butterfly painting. And that's the blue morpho. And I have better pictures of this one. You'll hear about the blue morpho over and over again. Costa Rica is very proud of the blue morpho butterfly. This was just another cool plant. This reminds me of the papyrus plant, if you've ever been to like Africa or Egypt. I don't think it is, but it reminded me of it. So of course, and if there's an orange on a butterfly, I felt like I had to take the picture because of Oregon State. And then here's a blue morpho, and I have other pictures of that butterfly later on as well. And as we were driving through, we're heading towards the Arenal volcano region, and we stopped at this family-owned botanical orchid garden. It's this really great small family-owned orchid garden where they grow and propagate orchids, and then of course sell them. And so we sat down and got to listen from the family about the process and the production and the history of the garden. And I mean, you're right. They have this little patio area, and then they have another area set aside. That's the dad of the family, and that was his son that was talking to us, and then some of our travelers. They're really great to listen to. And then we get to walk around and just see all the different varieties of orchids that are there, and they're stunning, and the colors are beautiful. And you go for a little walk to view the orchids, and they do a handout walking sticks, and they're groomed trails, and it's nice. You don't need a walking stick; it's just kind of fun part of the experience. And then everywhere you look is just these gorgeous plants and orchids. And then I have just some other pictures of more of the different varieties. And then we had lunch there as well. They made us lunch, the family, and the lunch was delicious. The food in Costa Rica, by the way, is delicious. Yes, you'll hear a lot about rice and beans or beans and rice, but there's still a lot of other varieties of foods in it. It was really, really good. And then this is a group photo of all of us together after lunch. I was hiding. I was taking the picture. And then some more orchids, because that's what you're there to see. And these were hanging orchids. They set up a whole lattice system, and you got to walk through the tunnel of all these beautiful hanging orchids. It was quite stunning. And we had some botanists on our trip with us, and they loved it. So everywhere we went, they were telling us every scientific name of every plant, and it was great. It was really fun. And then we go into the Arenal volcano region. And that is the famed Arenal volcano. And we were waiting a couple days to see if we were ever going to see the top of it, but there was definitely some cloudy days. It was still warm and nice, but a couple clouds when we were there. And then one day the clouds disappeared and it was gorgeous and we got to see the top. The volcano is 5,300 feet high, and it's in the La Fortuna district. That's where we were. It's considered a young volcano, about 7,500 years old. And it erupted in 1968, destroying 3 small villages, and then continued to be active until 2010. But now it's considered dormant. But you'll talk a lot about this great volcano. And then on our way in that area, we stopped at another cultural site and we got to try to press sugarcane to make guaro, which is an alcoholic beverage made out of the fermented or distilled sugarcane juices. So that's us trying to, some of our travelers trying to press the sugarcane, and then some guys had at it trying to, you can see down here at the picture of all the juices that come out of the sugarcane. And then they take that and they distill it and then they make this liquor out of it. And we have to try a little bit of that.
Yeah, you can drink it also as it is fresh pressed, like juice. It's actually pretty refreshing.
Nice.
There used to be huge sugarcane presses that were like 2 wooden slabs, and they were actually pulled by ox because they were so large, and they would
Oh, wow.
press a lot at a time.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard pressing that sugarcane juices or that juice out of sugarcane. So this guy, all right, we're organ staters for beavers. So if I see something that looks like a beaver, of course, I'm going to take a picture of it, and then I'm going to make everybody stand around it and take a picture of it. It's not a beaver, but it sure kind of looks like one. This was out front of a women's cooperative where they made local some crafts that then be able to sell for just additional money for their family. And so that was a great place to stop and look and buy some things and support the local economy. And then of course take your Oregon State photo. One of the other visits that everybody loved was going to the school to visit with the school children. And when we first arrived, they were more timid because we're just arriving and here's all these, Americans coming out of a big bus. But they welcomed us. They were very sweet and they brought us into their classroom. They did some dances and some songs for us while we were there. We all got to stand and watch, and they were so fun. And then in turn, we danced. Well, I'm trying to remember. So I think some people danced, and then we also sang our national anthem to them. And then we got to see their school and see, their desks and what they're doing. They would escort us around their school a little bit. If you know Spanish, this is a great place to practice your Spanish because their English wasn't as good. But their Spanish, of course, was great. And so, but they were just so fun. And then we went outside and we shared a snack together, and then the kids really started to open up and relax and have fun, and they enjoyed getting the picture taken. So I took opportunity and got to capture with some of the kids. They were just a lot of fun. And then they're dancing around after our snack together, just playing, having fun. And then we were getting ready to leave. And they were all excited and showing us their skirts and just doing what kids do. And then this is our bus driver, said he was best friends with everyone, including all the children at the school. They all knew him. So it was fun. Fun to see that engagement as well on the tour. And as we were leaving, they escorted us off. And then it was a really great fun visit. And then we went to another biological reserve. There's definitely a few different walks and places you go to be able to see the wildlife and the birds. Costa Rica has so many birds. So if you're a birder, it is definitely a place to go. And also some really, other great, amazing wildlife of all sorts. This is, if I remember, I think it's a blue jeans poison dart frog, and they're so little, they're really tiny. And our guide just knew exactly, he heard them, they have a little chirping sound, and he just lifted up a leaf and found him. So he was pretty fun to see. Then we saw another one later on. Sloths were in that area, two-toed sloth, and this one was actually taken somewhere else, but I wanted to add it in here because they're definitely found in this area as well. And you just kind of have to keep an eye out for them, of course, because they don't move very much. And they're there. And as you're driving through Costa Rica, we saw another sloth that was hanging on electricity pole. So you'll see them there often, and it's one of those things where our eyes aren't used to seeing sloths, but once you see a sloth or once you see a monkey, then you're like, oh, there's a sloth, there's a monkey, and then you're able to point them out better. But at first I was like, where are the sloths? And then I could start pointing them out and seeing them. Sloths come down, they stay up, and then they come down. I think it's like once a week to go to the bathroom, and then they go right back up. What were you going to say, Kelsey? Were you going to add?
No, I'm just nodding. Yes, there's a lot of them
Yeah.
on electrical lines, and sometimes they get
Yeah.
electrocuted, which is a sad, dark
Aw.
side. But mostly they stay, and they've tried to make natural bridges for them across, so that
Oh
that doesn't.
yeah, I forgot about that. That's right. Do you know what this one is, Kelsey? I forget the name of this little guy.
Danta?
Danta. I don't remember the English name of it, but we were surprised to see this little guy, but he was on one of our nature walks. And then again, birds, just a ton of great songbirds. And they have these feeding stations out that that help bring some of them in. I think this is a heron. There's a lot of different, a lot of species of herons. And we were by some water. And he was just looking at us. And then this was another one. This was the billed heron. I don't remember the first part of it. I want to say blue-billed heron, but it's probably not right. But another heron, and just talking to us. Amazing, as I said, plants in the area. And then this little guy as well. And these, if you go on all these different walks, you just really have to go slow and really look, because there's just things just hiding everywhere.
Yeah,
Like
people
this
say
guy.
that Costa Rica is amazing at a macro level and a micro level, and I've never had a visitor come visit me or myself come to Costa Rica and not see something amazing, like at least 5 amazing things. So it's impossible not to see great wildlife on this trip.
Yeah. There's a nail right here in the picture. They did have a display of the different butterflies stages of life, and I just thought this was gorgeous, so I took a picture of it. But it's not alive anymore. And then here at the spot, there is this gallery of, I think you say Maliku art. And there's these bowls over here on the right-hand side. These are carved out of the chicara tree. And this is an indigenous tribe to Costa Rica. They're one of the smallest indigenous tribes. There's only about 600 people left, and they live just about an hour north of La Fortuna. And this was their region that they used to live in. So they live on a reserve now, and they sell different arts and crafts for income. And so I bought one of these bowls, and it was a pretty neat. So there's that opportunity there. So on your drive to the cloud forest too, it doesn't say pay attention to everything that's out your windows, because you just pass by some amazing sights. I love graveyards. I think they're really interesting. Everywhere I travel, I take pictures of graveyards. And this is one of them that we drove through. Just another variety of different landscapes that you'll see. And this is on our way up to the cloud forest. Now we're in Monteverde. And there's a ton of things to do up and around the Monteverde area, and that you do stop at some little towns, and there's different places to have lunch and to walk around in art galleries and that sort of thing. This guy, he is a Coati. I think it was the white-faced Coati, if I remember right. He came and visited us right outside our hotel room, right around dusk. He would, or she would come and visit us. I saw an armadillo up there as well, and I guess you don't often see the armadillos, so I felt very special. I saw an armadillo. And then the sunsets were just amazing. They're beautiful. And your hotel in the Cloud Forest is the same one that we stayed at, and it's on a cliff, a pretty steep cliff. And they actually have a shuttle that will drive you back and forth because it's such a steep cliff, so you don't have to walk it. But it allows for these gorgeous views. And so this is just one of the beautiful sunsets that we had. And then we did the hanging bridges when we were in that area. The next trip is going to do the hanging bridges, I believe, down in the Arenal region. They changed the itinerary just slightly. Yeah, down in the volcano region. To allow for just a little bit more time in that other area, and so they love how the itinerary is now. But we were just joking about whether or not she was tall enough to be able to go on the walk. There was a series about 6 bridges, all varying lengths along the trail, and this is another one of those trips where it's a very short distance that you're walking, but it takes a couple hours because there's just so much to look at and to see and to learn about. This is our group. I was walking on one of the trails, and then this is a picture on the hanging bridges. Usually you wait and you just let a couple people at a time walk across the bridge. And so that's a couple pictures of some of our travelers walking. This is a picture of one of the bridges. They do sway when you're walking on them. And then you also learn about different plants and things that you see along the way as signs. And of course, like Armand was with us, and of course he told us 1,000 things that I don't remember at this point in time, but wishing that I did remember everything that he told me along the trip. And just pictures of the area. Another cool, I want to say it's a ginger. Is that right, Kelsey? Is that what that translates to? Yeah, it does. So that's I think the beehive ginger plant. And I got a picture of it. So I was pretty proud of that one. And then more air plants that we talked about before, epiphytes. A lot of little birds hiding everywhere. You would hear them, and then you'd want to try to chase them and snap a picture of them. There's one hiding right up here. This little, I believe this was a parrot that kept on grabbing his little nuts along the way. And then, of course, we always have a little fun when we travel. And again, just some of our great Oregon Staters, great conversation along the trip. And then, so there is a lot of butterfly photos here. This is the Monteverde Butterfly Garden. And at the beginning of the butterfly garden, these are stick bugs. You see it on her head. Our interpretive guide, came out with all sorts of insects, and they were just crawling all over her, which is really fun. So she had some stick bug friends on her hair, and then these are 1, 2, 3 different insects as well. And as you can see, it's some amazing camouflage on these insects. And then I just love, she has this great like roach beetle ring. And then this was a roach of some sort. And then, of course, our butterflies. Another blue morpho butterfly, and then just the varieties of the colors and the patterns were really pretty. They'd land on your head, or land on your shoulder. Or you'd have to really look sometimes, to find them. You'll walk into one of the butterfly rooms, and you'll be like, well, where are the butterflies? And then you just stop and like really look at the different plants and then the leaves and underneath the leaves, and then you see all of them in there hiding and blending in. And then sometimes they're on walls, so they're easier to see. And so these are the blue morpho butterflies. When they're closed, they have this brownie pattern, and then when they open their wings, you see the blue. Different species there. One landed on her hand, which was fun. One landed on his hat, on the grills. Then, of course, the red, orange, have to take a picture. No, orange butterfly. Getting ready to take off and flying away. This one, I love this picture because I don't even think they realized that there was a butterfly on her shoulder, but it's really fun. So and each one of the rooms had different plants and different types of species. Going through some of these pictures here. This one's pretty cool. You can really get up there. Of course, all stages of life, right? Little caterpillar. Undersides of butterflies, somewhat hidden. And then they did give us opportunities like in nectar, like sugary water to feed the butterflies and see if they'll come and land on your hand, which one landed on her. And then I thought this one was beautiful, this butterfly. And then just eating away. This one was great. You could really see the eyes. And I think we're almost done with my butterfly photos. This one was cool because of the red on the underside and then the blue. So we talked about the biodiversity of Costa Rica, and it's the amount of plants and animals that are in Costa Rica. Kelsey, do you want to add a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, the amount is they estimate there's about 500,000 known, so there are probably even more unknown species, and it accounts for 6% of the world's total biodiversity, which is incredible because it's such a small area. And if you think about it, hosting 6% of the whole world's biodiversity, it's pretty incredible.
It's incredible. And these are little leaf cutter ants that were cutting leaves and taking them away. Okay,
you
so
want to be careful if there's like big mounds of dirt around to not step on them, because usually they are ants' nests. So when you're walking on the trail, it's really easy to spot them. They're like huge mounds of dirt. You just don't want to step on them because then the ants will swarm you.
Yeah, that's not fun. So now we're in the Guanacaste region of Costa Rica, and we're on our way to do a river safari. And this is side note, so this is the drive that we're on, and I was talking because you don't really see as many monkeys until you get down to this area, and I kept on asking the guide, when are we going to see the monkeys? I want to see the monkeys. He's like, don't worry, you're going to see the monkeys. So we do this drive, and then we first stop at this Hacienda El Viejo, and we stop here to have lunch before we head on. And this is us enjoying lunch in this beautiful, beautiful hacienda. And it is a family-owned, it's a sugar plantation, and it's also a wildlife reserve bordering the Palo Verde National Park. They have preserved the original infrastructure of this since the late 1800s. And it's was it Sabanero, a cowboy home, traditional cowboy home. Down there, and it's nestled here in this endangered tropical dry forest, and so over 95% of the tropical dry forests have been lost. So and that's where some of the world's highest amount of biodiversity is in these dry forests, and so it's a big priority to save any of these tropical dry forests that are around. And has the highest concentration of endemic species in South America. So we had this great lunch there at the casona, or the mansion of the plantation, and then we headed on the river. Oh, this guy, iguana. We're sitting there having lunch, and then people are like, "Look at the iguanas!" And I didn't even see it. He was blended in, and they're just hanging out with us at lunch, waiting, I'm sure, for us to drop something. And then we head on the river. So when you go on the river safari, you're in just a low boat with a roof for the sun, great views on any side, any angle, to look out the river. And this is where a ton of migratory birds come down to this area. So if you're a birder, this is a huge area for birding. And I don't know all the different species of the birds, but you'll see the birds and the gators, and then, of course, the white-faced capuchin monkeys. And Kelsey, what is it in Spanish?
We call them cariblanca, which really means white face.
White
It's very
face.
descriptive.
Yes, they were definitely hanging out there. And then all kinds of different animals down there. There's a parrot up in the trees. We were fun to see that. And then we saw, I don't know if you can see this picture. Do you see these little guys hanging here? These are bats. Bats hanging. Oh, I forgot to mention in Monteverde, you do visit a bat museum in this fall, and you learn about all kinds of the fruit bats and echolocation hearing. And so we had that experience, and then we got to see all these bats hiding. And then here's another tree here that are hiding, somewhat hiding in the trunk of the tree. More herons all around. There's this guy. And then this, I think, is a hawk of some sort. I don't remember him, but he's hiding right here, if you can see him in the middle. Just that's how camouflaged and how great these animals are. Then, of course, all the monkeys. They were really fun to watch jump around the trees. And I wasn't this close to it. I did have a lens on my camera, but we still did get pretty close to the monkeys, as you know, safe distance. Iguanas, more monkeys looking at you. And then the iguanas are up. You have to look up and down and around. They're hiding everywhere. And then just getting all the different foods, drinking on the water. And these you'll start seeing, I believe they're the male iguanas they'll turn orange, and then that's when they're ready for breeding season. And there's a little monkey playing. And then he was went down and had a drink of water. He's like, "What are you doing?" And then, of course, we got your gators sitting on the side. I learned a fun tidbit that the mouth of the gators, it takes a lot of energy to actually open their mouth. It takes a lot of energy and time. So a lot of times they'll sit here with their mouths open. So they're ready when they just want to snap it shut, because it takes a lot less energy.
It's also a cooling mechanism, so they use it to
Ah.
cool them. They open their mouths to cool themselves.
It was a warm day too. We'll see a ton of these guys. Just some other fun travelers we have. I love these folks. They met on a previous tour, and then they continue to travel together through other trips. So it's fun to see them. And then this is a male in the tree. You can see all its full color orange. And of course, if you have to call him the OSU guy, orange and black. And then at the end of the trip, you get to spend your time in Terramindo at the beach. So you've got this great beach area in this really great little downtown area with a ton of little shops and restaurants and places to walk and wander, and gorgeous views. We on our day off, it was funny, you're with this group for 10, 12 days, and you're all together the whole time, and then you have your free day, and you just look at each other and say, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So a lot of us ended up at the beach together, just hanging out, and there was a whole at a school of spinner dolphins that were out in the water, and there were so many of them, and you just saw the water churning and spinning. It was really cool to see. They were just off the beach, and that was pretty magical to see. There was just a huge school of these dolphins out there, and it's just a nice time to relax and get some sun and do whatever you want to do on that day, and then you fly out. You fly out you come in San Juan, and then you fly out of Liberia. When we did the tour, we actually drove back and flew out of San Juan. So I like how they changed it and that you just fly out of Liberia. So that's basically the photo show. I've given you some highlights of Costa Rica, and if there's any questions that you might have, feel free to type any of those in. And down here at chat, we're here. And if you don't have any questions, that's fine too. Can always email me at, and I'll just type it in so you have it, at kate.sanders@osualum.com. And then that you can ask any questions. Then of course, you can find us online. Again, that's our website. And we are on Facebook. If you haven't been there, you can find us there. I try to post different pictures of tours on Facebook, and then other people to type in and share their photos or ask questions. So that's another great way to connect as well. And you can just search OSU Alumni and Friends Travel Community, or there's that OSU AA Travel should get you there as well. And then if there's no questions, Kelsey, do you have any final words about Costa Rica that you want to share?
This is a trip of a lifetime, and you really do hit all of the amazing biodiverse spots that are just like, when you come to Costa Rica, it's classic, but it's hard to fit them all in. So it's amazing how they've set up the itinerary, and I can see how you go along and you get to rest in one place. So it really seems like a well set up trip. And if you have the chance to come, I highly encourage it. You will not regret your decision.
Yeah. We had a couple questions that did pop up. One thing that you forgot to bring with you that you wished you had. I don't remember if there was anything. I love taking pictures if you can't tell. So for me, definitely camera equipment, and make sure you have your enough memory cards and batteries with you. But you really don't need a lot on this trip. You're just hanging out. You don't dress up. You just wear your touring clothes during the day. Mosquitoes, no, I don't remember there being any mosquitoes or having any bug problems at all. And then currency of Costa Rica. Kelsey, why don't you just say that one out loud?
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
So the currency of Costa Rica is the colon.
That's right.
You can bring dollars. You do not have to exchange. You do get I don't know if there would be time to go to the bank, but that's the best place to exchange it. They also have ATMs that accept US credit cards. So if you go to the National Bank of Costa Rica, then you can put in your foreign ATM card, and it will dispense the local currency, which is colones. And the exchange rate right now is about 500 colones to $1.
Yeah, and actually the Intercontinental Hotel in San Juan has an ATM, and that's just what I used right there in the hotel. And I just exchanged money there, and then the tour guides do like money in colones instead of US dollars. But they would take, along the trip, if somebody wanted to get like small dollars, I remember that was fine, like small ones. Yeah.
Both currencies technically circulate, but it's really easy to get the local currency. I would really recommend the ATMs. You just put your card in, put in your PIN, and then you get the local currency out.
Yeah, and I will give you a tip about that. Is the one that I used actually asked me if I wanted my money back in US dollars or in colones. And I first was confused in what it was asking me because I wasn't expecting that. And I thought it was asking me, did I put my request in a different currency? I don't know what I did. I messed it up. to be honest. And then I got all my money in US dollars. And I was like, well, shoot. So then I had to do it a second time. And I was like, okay, now I know what to do. So I guess it's not that big of a
Yeah,
mistake.
just
You
click
know?
the CRC option, Costa Rican Colon, or the Colones option. Just push that button.
Yep, I learned that lesson. So in your guides do want to get paid in colons. So I would always save that money into the side, so I knew I had my tip money at the end, and then have other money to share. So that's great. Yeah, Terramindo in Guanacaste is where we were talking about at the end, and it's a great beach town. It's a drier beach town. It's a great beach town, and I didn't have a picture of it, but the one thing I meant to put a photo in it, I was struck by as we were driving through Costa Rica, is something very simple. The roads. If there's a paved road, the gutters on the sides of the road are huge. They're really deep and they're paved. And I was looking at it saying, my gosh, you can tell that it rains a lot because the gutter system was phenomenal.
They're huge.
They're
Also,
huge.
yeah, you guys are going during the dry season, so you shouldn't have too many problems with mosquitoes or anything like that. But you can imagine in those gutters, they fill up their like tropical flash storms, and they'll fill up in like less than 20 minutes. They're overflowing.
I believe it. And then the other thing we talk to a lot about is there are still a lot of dirt roads, and we traveled along a lot of dirt roads in Costa Rica. And so some of the times it's slower going and bumpy because you're traveling on these dirt roads. And we were talking to the guide about it. And then we're also kind of paying attention to where these dirt roads are. And a lot of them are as you're going through the different mountainsides to different areas. And he had, this is a local thought. He's like, he believed they like to keep the roads dirt because it keeps the speed of the traffic down and helps reduce traffic accidents. And which could be true. I don't know. But I think there's also an economic reason is they're probably expensive just to pave all those roads. Is that you're nodding at, Kelsey?
It's
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah. And then again, the economy isn't what it is here in the US, but there are definitely a lot of dirt roads that you do travel around on the tour. But they're great. It's still a great time. Easy to take pictures when you're going slower. Yeah,
You get to
I
see
think that's it.
everything better. Yeah, for sure. It's a great way to
Yeah,
see all the wildlife.
it is. All right, well, we'll sign off. It's right about 6:30. So again, if you have questions, Kelsey does work with the Alumni Association, lives in Costa Rica, and I've been on the trip, so both of us are great resources for you if there's anything that you would like to know. But thank you for joining us, and have a great night.